Hi. Today is the feast of St. Mark. St. Mark, by tradition, was the cousin of Barnabas, a follower or a one of the co-apostles with Paul. And that's not certain. As a matter of fact, there's another thought that in the scene where Jesus is being arrested, that there's a scene of a young man. The saying goes like this: it's 14:51. It says, and a young man followed him with nothing but a linen cloth about his body. And they seized him, but he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. Now, I think this is so embarrassing that it's probably the detail of the actual fellow that was there. But these are traditions. We don't know that much about exactly who Mark was or who is the writer of it. But the Gospel of Mark is my favorite. It's the shortest. The scholars say it was probably the original one written. And what's fascinating about it is there was no writing style like it in the time. It is not a story per se, and yet it is so much more than the writings of Paul. The writings of Paul were inspired, gave instruction to the church, all that. He didn't say much about Jesus' life because he wasn't with them. Where this, which is much influenced by the presence of Peter throughout this gospel, so there's a lot of thought that he was a follower of Mark, may have been a follower of Peter, but nonetheless, it's a fascinating thing. And those who know Greek, I don't, they say that it was written in a cruder Greek, where Matthew is a little better and Luke was a much better writer for Greek. But I think in translations, they're able to smooth it out a little bit. They don't smooth out the jerkiness, though. So you get these sentences that don't have a lot of description with them. They just go from one thing to the other thing. And it's like, well, how do we get from here to there? But nonetheless, he records all the stories of Jesus, and not just with sayings. And prior to this, a lot of what they had been passing on verbally, it was just sayings of Jesus. And that's great. But it didn't talk a lot about Jesus himself. So Mark will talk where the people were amazed or put in awe of the way he spoke with such authority. That's fine. But then you go to read, well, what did he teach? It doesn't tell us that. We have to go to Matthew or Luke to get the, what do they call it? The Sermon on the Mount. And there we get great insights into what his teachings were. But in Mark, there's this raw energy that you just don't get in the other ones. So it starts, the very beginning of Mark is the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Now, that's fascinating because he's using the word gospel in the first words of writing, the first gospel. It's like, wait a second, what does gospel mean? Well, obviously, for Mark, this word means a literal meaning, which is the good news. And Jesus has brought good news. The big good news is that Jesus is here, and he, in fact, is the Christ. He is the one we've been waiting for centuries. He is the one promised by God to give us great insight. And all of that is contained in that first short little line. There is no infancy narrative. So Jesus isn't born in this gospel at all. There is not, the mother of Jesus is not mentioned by name. We don't have a Mary in this gospel. What we have is John the Baptist starting out quoting Isaiah. So you're initially connected with what it is that is the predictions of Jesus. And after the Jesus event, it took them a long time to read the Hebrew scriptures, which we would call the Old Testament, and see the fact that, oh, wait a second, this does fit. Oh, this fits. Oh, that fits. And so much of the story of what happened to Jesus fit. And yet at the time, they did not recognize him. One of the major centers of the Gospel of Mark is in chapter 8, line 29. Who do you say that I am? Jesus asked that of his apostles. They've already said, oh, other people are saying the prophets or John the Baptist or Elijah come back from the dead. Wait a second. Who do you say that I am? It is a question that still hits all of us. We have to stop and say, well, wait a second. What do you mean, who do I think Jesus is? Well, when you ask that question seriously, if you ask that question personally, and if you really try to think through it, that's not as easy a question to answer as it might seem. The other fascinating part is the way it ends. When it ends, the angels, let's see here, do not be amazed. You see, Mary Magdalene is at the tomb, and give me a second here. I'm trying to see if it says an angel or not. I don't see where it says. Who will roll back the tomb? When they looked up and saw the stone that had been rolled back very large. On entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the right side. They don't say who he is, just a young man sitting on the right side. Whether this is some appearance of Jesus, as an angel, it's not said. This is Mark. He's very cut. Just a young man standing there. And he tells them, he is not here, he's been raised, but go and tell his disciples he will meet them in Galilee. Now, in the other Gospels, we have great stories of the resurrected Christ. Here, we're just told to go and encounter him. And there's no real appearance of Jesus. The original short ending, and there's a longer ending that was put in about 100 years later, but the original ending then says, and they reported these instructions to Peter's companions. And afterwards, Jesus himself, through them, sent forth from the east to the west, sacred and imperishable proclamation of eternal salvation. So you don't really have Jesus appearing. You have Jesus just there. And it's fascinating because, to me, the big proof of the resurrection of Jesus isn't the fact of whether he was like this, like that, or like the other way, or how long he walked around before he boomed up into heaven. That's not the big thing. To me, the big thing is those apostles, scared guys in a room, just huddling up and also scared, all of a sudden had some transformation of the Holy Spirit coming upon them, and they became proclaimers that proclaimed so much, and they were so uneducated. Paul was educated, but Paul wasn't there. The guys that really got the word, the guys that really got excited, had no basis, had no qualifications, and yet they were transformed. And to the sense, when we talk about Jesus and we really get close to who he is, we can get excited too. And in that excitement, in that joy, well, then we can enjoy all the more these Easter days. We're in the octave of Easter, and Easter, the resurrected Christ, fills us with joy.